saw him as a gangster, no.
You saw him as?
I saw him as someone who inherited this thing. You start to find it's dubious because you don't know whether somebody wants you because they see you in the part.
For 50 years, he's been more than an actor, he's been a force of nature. Al Pacino. The name alone brings to mind raw power, explosive intensity, and characters that have become a permanent part of American cinema. From Michael Corleone, Chilling.com, to Tony Montana's volcanic rage, Pacino's performances are legendary. He's a titan who has worked with just about everyone in the industry. But what happens when titans clash? Hollywood is built on collaboration, sure, but it's also a hyper-sure world of massive egos, artistic battles, and tensions that can simmer for decades. Throughout his career, Pacino has been famously private, an artist who lets his work do the talking. He's never been one for public feuds or tabloid drama. But lately, a tantalizing rumor has caught fire online. Whispers in forums and sensational YouTube videos are all spinning the same tale. That now, at 85, Pacino is finally breaking his silence. They talk about a secret list, a personal takedown of the 7 actors he supposedly hated working with. The most A-list that would represent not just a clash of personalities, but a war over the very soul of acting. Let's be very clear. Though this story is pure internet speculation, Al Pacino has not come out and confirmed any list. There is no official statement. So, what we're about to do is take a journey into the heart of a Hollywood myth. We'll dig into the rumored feuds, the stories of on-set friction, and the legendary conflicts that have been whispered about for years. Our mission is to investigate these claims and try to uncover the truth behind the 7 names that always seem to pop up on this so-called hate list. Are these real rivalries or just dramatic inventions? Let's find out. Coming in at number 7 is a name that's perhaps the most tied to Pacino's own legacy, Marlon Brando. On screen, in The Godfather, they were father and son, Don Vito and Michael Corleone, a cinematic duo like no other. Off-screen, the story gets a lot more complicated, a mix of respect, rivalry, and rumored resentment. The legend of their feud usually starts with the 1973 Academy Awards. Brando won Best Actor, while Pacino, who arguably carried more of the film, was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. The popular story is that Pacino felt so insulted by this that he boycotted the ceremony completely. It paints a picture of a young, proud actor feeling overshadowed by the very icon he was set to succeed. One YouTube video even claims Pacino admitted, "I didn't think it was right. I was in that movie more than he was." That supposed quote has become a cornerstone of the whole feud narrative. The rumors don't stop there. They paint Brando as a difficult, unpredictable presence on set, showing up late, making up lines, and clashing with director Francis Ford Coppola, all while getting a pass from the studio because of his legendary status. Pacino, a relative, nobody at the time, was reportedly held to a much stricter standard, creating a double standard that supposedly fueled the tension. In fact, the studio nearly fired Pacino, because executives just didn't get his quiet, internalized performance. But here's where the myth crashes into reality. While Pacino did boycott the Oscars, he has fiercely and repeatedly denied it had anything to do with Brando. He called the rumors of him hating Brando fiction, a story cooked up by people looking for drama. In reality, Pacino has consistently shown nothing but deep admiration for Brando, calling him an inspiration and a magician. He often tells the story of how Brando was one of the few people who had his back when the studio wanted him gone. In a 2010 interview, Pacino said, "His support was invaluable. I loved him." So, far from a story of hate, it seems to be one of mentorship. The established king looked out for the young prince who was about to be exiled. So why does the feud story stick around? Because it's a better story. The idea of a Cold War between the 2 greatest actors of their generations is just too good to pass up. The truth, however, is probably more nuanced. Was there professional jealousy? Maybe. A natural competitiveness between 2 titans? Almost certainly. But to call it hate is to ignore years of documented respect and support. The ghost of Marlon Brando hangs over Pacino's career, but it looks more like a shadow of inspiration than one of hatred. At number 6, we find Pacino's contemporary, his parallel, and, according to Hollywood lore, his biggest rival, Dustin Hoffman. This wasn't a feud born from one big on-set explosion, but more of a long-simmering Cold War. It was rooted in professional jealousy and the simple fact that in 1970s New York, they were the 2 kings constantly fighting for the same crown. Throughout the 70s, Pacino, Hoffman, and Robert De Niro were seen as the holy trinity of a new, raw kind of American acting. But while De Niro and Pacino built a relationship on competitive respect, the dynamic with Hoffman was said to be much colder. They were always being mistaken for each other, and their names were attached to the same projects. Hoffman was up for Michael Corleone. Pacino was considered for Hoffman's roles in Lenny and Marathon Man. The rivalry got so intense that, according to Pacino's own memoir, a producer once seriously suggested they settle it with a charity boxing match. Pacino laughed it off, joking, "Let me just tell you straight out, Dustin will beat me. He works out, he'll knock me out." The most famous flashpoint in their rumored feud happened over a movie that was never even made. In 1974, director Sidney Lumet wanted to cast both of them in Attica, a drama about the prison uprising. It was a dream team-up that fell apart before it even started. The story goes that their completely different approaches to acting created a gap that was just too wide to cross. Hoffman, known for his meticulous, obsessive research, supposedly showed up with binders full of data. Pacino, the intuitive, emotional improviser, found this approach sterile and maddening. According to one sensational account, during an improv exercise, Hoffman kept stopping to analyze motivations. Legend has it that Pacino finally threw up his hands and said something to the effect of, "At some point, you have to stop building the violin and play the damn music." Another rumored quote from Pacino during these sessions was, "We're not performing autopsies here, we're trying to breathe life into something." Whether those exact words were spoken is lost to time, but they perfectly capture their creative differences. The project fell apart, and they would never again try to star opposite each other. Over the years, supposed off-the-record comments have fed the narrative. Hoffman was said to have privately called Pacino's method risky and selfish, while Pacino offered what many saw as a backhanded compliment at the actor's studio, saying, "Some actors perform, others reveal," a remark many believe was aimed at Hoffman's technical style. But like with Brando, calling it hate is probably going too far. Pacino himself has admitted the constant comparisons were annoying, but he's also praised Hoffman's incredible talent. He acknowledges the rivalry, but frames it as something created by the media and the industry, not some deep personal hatred. Their story is less about animosity and more about two masters of the same craft, who simply worship at different altars. Our next entry, at number 5, isn't an actor, but a director whose clash with Pacino became a legendary tale of on-set war. William Friedkin. The battleground was the controversial 1980 film Cruising, a dark thriller where Pacino played an undercover cop in New York's S&M scene. The production was already under fire, with protests from gay rights groups, but the turmoil outside was nothing compared to the storm brewing on set. Friedkin, the director of The French Connection and The Exorcist, was a notoriously tough and uncompromising filmmaker. Pacino, now a huge star, was a proud and visceral actor who hated being controlled. It was a recipe for disaster. They reportedly clashed from day one. Friedkin, in his memoir and interviews, did not hold back. He claimed Pacino was unprepared and disrespectful, arriving late and improvising in ways that undermined his vision. In one particularly nasty interview, Friedkin said, "I don't give a flying FCK into a rolling donut about what Al Pacino thinks." Reports from the set paint a picture of total chaos, shouting matches, long, tense silences, and an atmosphere thick with contempt. The feud reportedly peaked with a quote that has haunted their collaboration for decades, where Friedkin allegedly called Pacino the biggest disappointment I've worked with. This wasn't just a creative disagreement. It was a total breakdown of respect between two powerful men. Pacino, on the other hand, felt trapped. He was uncomfortable with the film's subject matter and found Friedkin's rigid control artistically suffocating. The film's famously ambiguous ending became another sore spot. Pacino has said that to this day, he doesn't know if his character was the killer or not because Friedkin refused to tell him how to play the final scene. This left Pacino feeling completely lost. In his own memoir, Pacino admitted he saw the final film as exploitative and refused to promote it. The fallout was immediate and permanent. They never worked together again. No joint interviews. New polite Hollywoody reunions. The decades of silence between them tell a pretty clear story of a professional divorce with zero chance of reconciliation. At number 4 is Ellen Barkin, Pacino's co-star in the 1989 thriller Sea of Love. On screen, their chemistry was electric, dangerous dance between a burned-out cop and a seductive woman who might be a killer. The film was a hit and revived Pacino's career, but behind the scenes, their relationship was, according to Barkin, any. Coming in at number 3 is Sean Penn, an actor known for his own brand of fiery intensity. Their collaboration on the 1993 film Carlito's Way should have been a match made in method acting heaven. Pacino starred as Carlito Brigante, trying to go straight, while Penn gave a wild, Golden Globe-nominated performance as his corrupt coke-fiend lawyer. The film is a crime masterpiece. But whispers from the set suggest the collaboration between these two wasn't exactly smooth. Both Penn and Pacino are famous method actors, but their specific approaches may have created a subtle, constant tension. The most famous story from the production involves a scene where Penn's character, high on cocaine, is trying to talk Pacino's character into a dangerous boat trip. According to director Brian De Palma, he shot about 15 takes of Penn and was happy with it, but Penn wasn't, insisted they didn't have it and demanded more. De Palma recalled, he said, No. I said, what? He said, we don't have it. He said, 20. I said, 20. Okay, ... Single quotes, De Palma shot 10 more takes before he had to move on, noting that Sean was never happy with the scene. And that story right there gets to the heart of the potential conflict. Penn's obsessive perfectionism versus Pacino's more gut-driven approach. While Pacino prepares intensely, he also thrives on spontaneity. Penn's relentless need to drill a scene through repetition might have clashed with Pacino's desire to find the truth more organically. An endless number of takes can drain the life out of a scene, turning raw emotion into a technical exercise, the very thing Pacino supposedly disliked in his rumored work with Dustin Hoffman. There are no reports of open hostility between them. Their relationship on set is better described as professional but distant. They were two heavyweights circling each other, maintaining a respectful distance while delivering knockout performances. The hate here is almost certainly an exaggeration. Born from the natural friction between two incredibly intense and stylistically different artists, the tension you see on screen is electric, maybe because it was fueled by some very real creative friction behind the scenes. At number 2, we're back on the set of The Godfather, this time for a rumored feud with the man who played Pacino's hot-headed older brother, Sonny Corleone, James Caan. Their on-screen dynamic was a mix of brotherly love and violent frustration. Off-screen, some reports suggest a relationship that was even more contentious. The core of the supposed animosity, according to some stories, started with Caan's jealousy of another actor, Gianni Russo, who played Carlo. Russo had real-life mob connections, something Caan, who was playing the tough guy, apparently envied. This feud between Caan and Russo famously blew up in a fight scene, where Caan allegedly went off script and actually hurt Russo, breaking 2 of his ribs. While that main conflict was between Caan and Russo, the aggressive vibe Caan created on set reportedly didn't sit well with Pacino. Pacino's portrayal of Michael was all quiet, simmering intensity, the exact opposite of Caan's explosive, physical performance. Then there was the casting drama. The studio originally wanted Caan, a bigger name at the time, for the role of Michael Corleone. It was only because Coppola and Caan himself insisted that Pacino got the part, with Caan taking the role of Sonny instead. Even though Caan advocated for Pacino, the fact that the studio initially preferred him could have created an undercurrent of rivalry. But much like the Brando story, the narrative of a deep feud with Caan seems to be mostly hype. Despite any on-set friction, the two actors stayed friends for decades after the film. In January 2021, just over a year before his death, Caan posted a photo of the two of them on Twitter with the simple caption, "Al and me," end of tweet, along with a flexing emoji, a clear sign of friendship. They played brothers on screen, and it seems their real-life relationship kind of mirrored that. Full of competition, sure, but with a deep underlying affection. And now, for the number 1 spot on this alleged list. A name that has been pitted against Pacino for half a century, an actor who isn't his opposite, but his reflection. His cinematic twin, Robert De Niro. For 50 years, the question has haunted Hollywood, Pacino or De Niro. Their careers have run on parallel tracks. They competed for the same roles, were nominated for the same awards, and shared the screen 4 times. But according to the most persistent rumors, underneath all the public friendship lies a Cold War rivalry so deep it qualifies as the ultimate Hollywood feud. The narrative is compelling. De Niro is the master of quiet, surgical transformation. Pacino is a force of raw, volcanic emotion. Michael Mann, who finally got them face-to-face in Heat, said he had to treat them like separate storms, heading for the same point. Reports from that set claimed the two barely spoke when the cameras weren't rolling. This supposed coldness fuels the rumor mill. People point to them being in The Godfather Part 2 but never sharing a scene as the start of a lifelong competition. Even their recent personal lives have been framed as a weird contest, with news of De Niro having a child at 79 quickly followed by Pacino becoming a father at 83, sparking headlines about the daddy of all rivalries. But the truth, according to both of them, is anything but hatred. It's a relationship built on deep mutual respect and a shared history that goes back to their days as struggling actors. Pacino himself has addressed the rumors, saying, "There's no rivalry now, but there was when we were younger. It was the natural competition of two ambitious young lions, not a bitter personal feud." Their friendship is 50 years old. Forged in acting classes in the late 1960s, De Niro has said of their bond, "Al and I got to be friends over the years, competing viciously with each other for parts." That quote captures their dynamic perfectly, a fierce professional competition inside a genuine, long-standing friendship. They still get together to talk about work and give each other advice. The idea that they hate each other is probably the biggest fabrication of all. Theirs is the greatest rivalry in modern cinema, but it's a rivalry of artistry, not animosity. They are two sides of the same incredible coin, who have pushed each other to greater heights for 5 decades. The fact that the world insists they must be enemies is just a testament to how great they both are. So, there you have it, a deep dive into the 7 most rumored feuds of Al Pacino's legendary career. From Marlon Brando to Robert De Niro, these stories are a mix of on-set tension, artistic differences, and a whole lot of Hollywood myth-making. What becomes pretty clear is that the whole idea of a Pacino hate list is almost certainly fiction, internet clickbait designed to stir up drama. Pacino has never said anything of the sort, and in most cases, the evidence points not to hatred, but to complex relationships built on respect, rivalry, and the insane pressures of their job. These rumored clashes with giants like Brando, Hoffman, and De Niro are less about personal dislike, and more about the natural friction that happens when titans with different ideas about acting collide. The conflicts with director William Friedkin or the discomfort on the Sea of Love set highlight just how volatile filmmaking can be. In the end, these stories might reveal more about us than they do about Al Pacino. We're fascinated by the idea that our heroes have flaws, that giants can clash, and that behind the perfect images on screen lies a messy human reality. But we have to separate a good story from the facts. While the idea of a secret list is juicy, the truth is likely found in the work itself, decades of brilliant art that wouldn't exist in an atmosphere of genuine hate. So, what do you think? Are these stories just Hollywood gossip, or is there real fire behind all that smoke? Who do you think was in the right in these creative clashes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to click here for more Untold Stories of Hollywood's biggest legends. We'll see you in the next one.